I think what you're doing is cool. So let's just start with the fact that what you're doing is cool. And I was like, oh, curbside charging is neat. I remember seeing that years ago in Santa Monica when it first started up. To kick this podcast off, how would you explain curbside charging and how does it work in an everyday scenario?
So, for drivers who drive electric vehicles in the United States, 85% of those drivers charge their vehicle at home, meaning they have a garage or a driveway that they can pull their car into reliably every single night, and they can plug in and charge and then wake up and have that full battery. And that is just a huge convenience. And what's part of what makes EV ownership so sticky and addictive in the US is because you never have to go to that gas station again. Same way that you plug in your phone overnight and you wake up and your battery is full, you do that with your car. But if you don't have a garage or a driveway, if you live in a more urban area or you're a garage orphan, meaning maybe your landlord uses the garage and you have to park on the street, you don't have a very easy way to charge your car and you're forced to use the limited numbers of public chargers that are out there. And to date, those public chargers have all been in the United States what's known as a destination charger, meaning I have to go to a shopping mall, I have to go to a supermarket, or it's along a highway corridor. And that reduces the convenience and it makes owning an EV a lot harder, and that's been slowing adoption. So curbside charging is the idea that we're just putting that outlet that everyone else has in their garage, we're just putting it on the curb right for you. So you come home, you're already parking on the street, and you just plug right in.
Nathan, from let's say, an everyday practical use standpoint, let's say, hey, Nathan, let's have lunch, or hey, Tia, let's go get coffee. Do you see that as a convenience? Oh, we're going to go in and have lunch. Let's just plug it right there in the curb. It's not like, oh, no, I got to go find a charging center. I got to drive around in circles. And when I get there, there's probably a line. Do you see maybe as a convenience that could help accelerate the adoption of EVs?
Yeah, I've been an EV driver now for 3 years, and I've got a pretty decent battery, about 75 kilowatt hours. I am not constantly worried about charging because once I'm up around, 80%, I know that I've got a couple hundred miles before I need to worry about charging. And so what I'll typically do is just sort of like in my head, make a mental note, like once I start to get around 30, 20%, I'm going to find a level 2 charger and I'm going to leave it there for a bit. The only time I'm really ever thinking about like, oh, I better be plugged in while I'm, parking and doing an errand is if I'm like driving between cities. Typically, I have my level 2 charger options that I have in my neighborhood, and I'm lucky enough to have some chargers here in the workplace. Once a week or so, I plug in and charge. That kind of experience really is how most drivers, I think, are managing their EVs when they don't have a garage or a driveway. So I'm one of these drivers. We live in Brooklyn. We don't have the luxury of a driveway. And so I'm just kind of in my head, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to do that overnight charge session. And that's really kind of what we're unlocking. We're trying to give more opportunities for more drivers to do that. I think when you go to a gas car driver today and they don't have a driveway, trying to get them to understand that overnight, once a week kind of charging behavior it's a lot of driver education. But once you're into that world, it starts to make a lot of sense.
Was your experience living in Brooklyn one of the inspirations why you and Tia came together to co-found It's Electric?
Oh, absolutely. It's Electric is a pandemic company. I did not have a car for about 20 years living in New York City. And I worked, before starting It's Electric, I worked in architecture. I was very interested in sustainable building. And so when I looked into getting a car during the pandemic, realized that the only place that I could have charged was about a mile away from where I lived. It was not very convenient to get to. And so I realized, and then talking to people, a lot of my friends and neighbors who live in Brooklyn had the same kind of circumstance. They wanted to switch from gas to electric, didn't know where they would charge. And it got me thinking about different ways that we could try to solve this problem.